Good afternoon, problem solvers. So I just wanted to quickly go through the Daisy Donuts project second part. For that part, this is after you've already completed the class kick exercise. You're going to be making your own actual project here. And so this one is not going to be about donuts. You're going to decide how you want to make this project. And there are going to be 5 components to this project. The first one is you want to make some real life connection. Okay, so we want it to be in some way a real life scenario. And so what I want you to do with that is just write an introductory paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences that just kind of describe the scenario that will help your students, right, your students to answer the questions that you're going to ask. And these details should be realistic. It shouldn't, if you have pricing in there, it should be realistic pricing. If it's measurements, those measurements should make sense. So I've got an example here. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. That's a famous tongue twister. So Sally sells the smaller shells for less than the big shells. She has some big shells that weigh 30,000 pounds. Okay, that's not realistic. I don't know of too many seashells, at least normal seashells, that would weigh 30,000 pounds. So we want to use something realistic. So maybe she has some big shells that weigh 3.5 pounds. That would make sense. Okay, so that is a real life situation. And then I want you to come up with some percent questions that you ask in relationship to the story that you provided. And you can make up any kind of story. I used a couple stories in class using some of the students. So you guys come up with your own scenario, selling cars, buying houses. There's all kinds of things you can do. There's all types of products out there. You're going to ask 5 questions. Okay, so 5 questions. Each one of those questions should be based off of one of the types of percentages that we talked about. And really, you only need to use those once. Okay, so you don't need to use those a bunch of times. Just come up with one question about one type of percentage problem. So either taxes or tips and fees, discounts and coupons, commissions, markup. Okay, so you have 7 different choices here. And so I put 2 examples. So there's 2 examples of questions you could ask in my story. Sally sells her smallest seashells for $1.29. In Marion County, tax is 8%. What would the total cost be for 8 small shells, including tax? Okay, so there's our tax problem. Or on Tuesday, Sally decides to sell her small shells for $1.59. So what would her percent markup be? Again, there's another type of question. So we did taxes, we did markup, and we would just need to find 3 other types of questions to ask. Component 4 is that you're going to come up with an answer key for your students. So I don't want you just to ask questions. I need you to show me that you know how to answer those questions. All right, so once you've created your problems, you're going to come up with an answer key, and the answer key should also show the steps you use to solve those problems. All right, you don't have to show me every way that you would solve one of those problems, but I need you to show me some way to solve those problems as if you were teaching it to somebody else. So in my example above, I said that she sells 2 of her shells. We know they're $1.29 each, so I multiplied that by 2 to get my total price. 8% tax, I multiply the tax times the price, which is 0.08 or 8 hundredths times $2.58, and I find my tax is 21 cents. And so then the total cost of those shells would be the price, which was 258, plus the tax, which was 21 cents, and I get my final answer. So this is my answer key for my question number 1 out of my example. And so I would need to do the same thing for each question that I did. So the component 5 is organization and readability. Please do this in an organized way so that if just anyone were to walk up and read your paper, they would be able to do that. So I suggest using either Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. If you are familiar with those, PowerPoint is a great way to make projects. You can add pictures and do things pretty easy in PowerPoint. It's a little more tricky in Word. If you want to use another program, that's fine. Just do me a favor when you send it to me, send it in a PDF format because PDF is acknowledged by all computers and I won't need any kind of special programs to open your document. And even if you use Word or PowerPoint, you can feel free to save it as a PDF and send it to me that way. All right. You can do it by hand if you really want to on paper, but just be sure that I can read it when you take a picture of it. Sometimes students do things on paper and they send me a picture and I can't read what they have on the paper. Okay, so make sure I can read it. A couple tips again. Remember, it should be a realistic scenario. Your project can be anywhere from 1 to 10 pages. You could easily do this on 1 or 2 pages. If you want to get real fancy with like a PowerPoint, you want to do 10 pages, that's fine. I don't really want it any longer than that. It should include at least a couple pictures. You can find those pictures online. It doesn't have to be like a real picture. It can be a picture that you find of other people doing things, and that's fine too. And just to avoid any issues with submission, please email this project to me, okay? Because I know we've had some issues in some of the other classes with submissions not going through, and I just want to avoid that. So you're going to email me your project by next Friday. Next Friday, not tomorrow, the 17th, but next Friday is when everything will be due. All right, and I've included a rubric that explains everything we just talked about and how many points you will receive based on what happens here. So if you only had 3 to 4 questions, you'd only get 1 point out of a possible 2 points for that section. Number of problems, you can get anywhere up to 2 points. And you can see there if you only do 1 or 2 questions, you don't get any credit for that. If you do 3 or 4 questions, you get a point. If you do 5 questions or more, then you get 2 points. You don't need to do more than 7 questions because there's only 7 types. So feel free to stop at 5 if you'd like to. So again, that's our rubric. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Send me an email or reach out to me during a help session. All right, so enjoy yourself, be creative with this, and I will see everyone next week.